Welcome to Know Your Money, where we will explore our relationship with money and how the psychology of it impacts our financial decisions, as everyone thinks about money differently. In our podcast, we'll be presenting a variety of financial topics in an easy-to-understand way, which we hope will assist you with managing your money.
Hi, I'm Craig Finch, co-owner of Growth Financial Planning, an independent financial planning practice, and I've been a financial planner since 1986.
Hi, everybody. I'm Bronwyn Wayner, co-owner of Growth Financial Planning. I'm a certified financial planner, and our philosophy at our company is to grow yourself to grow your wealth.
Hi, everyone. My name is Warren Grimsley. I'm a director at Rogue Media and help facilitate this wonderful podcast. My main goal here is to try and understand what these two lovely people are saying so that we can all understand.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Know Your Money. This week's episode, we have a guest, Bianca from D is for Divorce and the Confidence Coach. She is here just to highlight for us a little bit around marriage regimes and a few other things. And her main line of work is mediation and helping clients through divorce. And we thought today it would be good to help clients before you have to get there, where that would be. So B, let us know a little bit more about you and...
welcome. Thank you. I appreciate it. Hello, hi everyone. So I am an attorney by profession, and have gone into mediation practice just because I think mediation is a better option in terms of divorce. And my passion project is D is for Divorce. So it's like an all-encompassing, come and find everything you need to know about divorce, right? And I thought today maybe we could chat about marital regimes because I think we don't preempt divorce, right? Nobody says I do to say I don't, but you have to be smart about the decisions that you make, particularly if you're an entrepreneur or along those lines, right? You're a business owner. How you get married is really, really important. So we've got 3 marital regimes in South Africa, in community of property, out of community of property, and then in community of property with accrual. Okay. Yeah. So the first one is the kind of stock standard. If you don't agree to anything else, you will be married in community of property. That's kind of the fairy tale marital regime.
So that's the default for the country?
That's the default for the country, sure.
So you in a traditional marriage or you just hook up with the two of you and you don't get the chance to see an attorney like you, then that is called community of property.
Community of property, right. So basically what's yours is mine and what's mine is yours.
So those are people that go to get married in court kind of thing. Right?
Exactly.
That's what your regime will be.
Well, not only in court, if you're married in a church or synagogue.
A church, home affairs, wherever you go.
It's anyone who hasn't had legal advice and hasn't
signed a document.
Anybody who's idealistic about marriage will do in community of property.
So you obviously got a
So most young people.
No, not actually. I think people are becoming a little bit more aware because I think people are kind of understanding that divorce actually is becoming the norm more than long-term marriage. So.
Yeah, it's becoming the rule rather than the exception.
Exactly. Yeah. So the divorce rate is astronomical.
And there are laws that govern community of property, are there?
Sure. I mean, it's all part of the Matrimonial Property Act.
Okay, so it is. The government has got a framework for it.
It does have a framework for it. But more because it's the default kind of system, it's just everything goes into one pot. And then if you decide to get divorced, we split it 50-50.
But it's not only on divorce, it's on death as well.
On death as well. Yeah.
So how we describe it is that you're seen as one person when you married in community of property. Would that be right?
Yeah.
So if that person has debt, you have that debt. If this person has assets, you have those assets. And if you get divorced, all of that, there's no question, has to be divided between each of you, or how does it work?
There's no question if you argue. Right. So when you get divorced, you can really structure your divorce however you want to. So you may be married in community of property, but you may then by agreement agree to say, well, listen, you're going to take this and you're going to take that. And then there's no issue. You can really structure your divorce however you want to, provided that it's fair.
That's what happened with my first marriage.
Yeah. Okay.
We were married in community of property and then we had a settlement agreement.
Amazing. And And so it's only if there's conflict and you go back to court that the courts will then say, right, this is what you guys agreed to, this is how it was entered into, and so you're stuck to that.
But also, as you say, for business, it's important to have an agreement because then your wife can have her business.
Absolutely.
And doesn't affect the community of property. It doesn't affect the assets in the marriage, right?
Sure. So that's if you get married out of community of property, right? Okay. Then what's yours is yours and what's mine is mine. And if you die, exactly.
The other business partner
is
no
not
choice,
liable.
Yes,
but has you in there because now you own it or...
Sure.
So Bianca, do you advise people not to go the community of property route?
Absolutely not. Okay. I think it's, like I said, it's idealistic. And in a fairy tale world, and we all want to believe in happily ever after, and that's great. But
things happen.
Sure.
Yeah.
And from a financial perspective, it makes more sense, right? If you are somebody who is entrepreneurial and you want to open, establish yourself, it's good to have that separation from your personal life and your business life.
So that your wife or husband can sign on their own behalf and it doesn't affect the other person.
Exactly.
Okay.
And if you suddenly realize your spouse has got an addiction or kind of, likes to spend money and incur debt, you're not liable for that debt.
Okay, so you're obviously seeing the dark side of divorce as well.
The realistic side of it. No, listen, I think marriage is incredible, but I think you also have to be realistic about your own personal growth, your own financial growth, and you safeguard each other, actually.
Okay.
And that's where you get out of community of property with accrual, right?
Okay.
Because
should we go there?
Let's go there. So before, obviously, traditionally, women stayed at home and raised kids and then went off and made money. And then if a divorce happened, she would be left without anything, right? Because it's out of community of property. So accrual was introduced in the 80s. And so what that means basically is you have what's yours and I have what's mine. But whatever we accrue during the course of the marriage, we split the difference, right? Yeah. So if you're worth 1,000 and I'm worth 500, you have to pay me 250 Rand. It's a very successful marriage, that one. But just to keep the numbers simple. So accrual was done to safeguard kind of the stay-at-home moms or whichever spouse decided to support the other in their business.
When my parents got married in the 50s,
sure,
my dad had a business and he got married without there's no accrual then.
Yes.
But antenuptial.
Sure.
And because he had a business and the risk of that business going insolvent or losing it, when they bought the house in my mom's name.
Sure, yeah.
So that was a good thing. But what used to often happen is that the house was bought in the male's name.
Correct.
And because the male had the job and he had the credit worthiness.
Exactly.
And then if he left the marriage, he had the house and the poor
she'd be left
wife who looked after the whole family was left with nothing. That's when the accrual came into being.
Yeah, just to balance it out, right? Because there is value in offering support to your spouse who's chasing a career.
Yeah,
and that's something that's taken into consideration if you look at things like spousal maintenance, kind of what have you done to support that person in their career.
Yeah, but the problem is still you can exclude things in the antenuptial, right?
Sure. In the antenuptial contract, you get a starting value. So let's say you own property before you get married. That'll be included in your ANC. And then upon divorce, those assets are excluded from your total value of your estate.
So in other words, you could say, I own this house. Well, I don't.
Yes,
the bank still owns the house, but I'm going to exclude the house from the marriage.
Exactly.
Okay, which is not a good thing.
I think it's necessary to safeguard yourself. People are getting married later and later.
Yeah.
So if you've established yourself and you've got properties and your own assets, then it's fine to exclude those things.
Yeah.
Because that's what you've kind of accrued for yourself without your partner.
And how would that affect on death if they accrue?
I was about to say, surely you could include those in your will then.
Yes, your will would then take precedence over that.
Okay.
So, but that's a warning in my thing for a spouse who's got the one partner is making the money.
Sure.
And they get married, and then that partner says, "Hold on, I'm going to exclude the house."
Sure.
Which you don't want. So if they get divorced, that house is not part of the accrual.
Correct.
So what should happen is say, no, the house to this value.
There is a starting value.
Yes.
Yes.
But we're saying in this case excluding it, so it's not even part of it.
So you'd have to give a value to the asset at this time of conclusion of the ANC, right? If it increases in value, then that additional amount forms part of your estate.
No, that's fine. But what I'm trying to say is, can you exclude it completely?
You can.
So that's a warning sign, because if you exclude it, then that means that down the line, 20 years down the line, if that marriage breaks up, the partner who's making the money just says, I still have the house. You have nothing. It's not even the growth of that house.
Sure, but then you can then approach the courts and make the argument that she then contributed to kind of the increase in value, or she's sacrificed her own career. So the courts can make another decision contrary to the marital regime. But then you're in for a fight, right?
So that's when the lawyers get involved.
That's when the lawyers
fight.
get involved.
Okay.
Yeah.
And also, what could they get? Like, for how long? So let's say, for example,
You're saying spousal maintenance now.
Yes.
Yeah.
How long does that, and what does it go on?
So spousal maintenance is actually it's really difficult to kind of gauge what you're going to get, right? The courts take into consideration a couple of factors. So it's the age of the parties, how long the marriage has been in existence for. So obviously the shorter the marriage, the less chance you are going to have of getting spousal maintenance. The reason for the breakdown, even though South Africa's got a no-fault system, if you were having extramarital affairs or there was abuse involved, then they'll take that into consideration. And also the earning abilities of the party. So let's say you have a woman who worked and then stopped working. She's still able to go back into the workplace. The court will say, okay, I'll give you 6 months to a year of spousal maintenance.
Sure.
So I think we should chat about that in the next episode.
Yeah,
sure.
Because
amazing.
So the third regime is
with accrual, which is what I would recommend.
Yeah, but the other one is not accrual.
No, so it's in community of property, out of community of property, and then in community of property with accrual.
Okay.
Those are your three. So go for the third option.
Yes.
Which is?
In community of property with accrual.
So as the marriage increases in value,
sure,
both parties share in the value.
They split the difference between the two estates. Yeah.
What they brought in.
Yeah.
So why would you have the one without accrual?
The without accrual is just, I don't know if you've like a really big business tycoon or you're concerned about gold diggers. I don't know. There's many options for people and why they would consider that, I suppose.
Okay.
So I think probably the more established you are in your business, you probably consider out of community of property. I don't know.
Do you have any questions, Warren? Because
as soon as there are children involved
yes.
in a marriage, you talked about spousal maintenance, sure. Child maintenance.
Yeah, maintenance is a different. So those two factors of maintenance are very different and calculated in a completely different way.
Okay.
So maintenance is an immediate obligation as a parent.
Yes.
Right? It's one of the 4 responsibilities and rights of a parent.
Yes.
Whereas spousal maintenance is something you have to go and apply for.
But could it be a stealth form of spousal maintenance if you have 2 children with somebody and he was a wealthy man and then you don't work and you look after the kids? You're the one spending the money, not the children.
Sure, you are. But the way you calculate maintenance takes into consideration shared expenses between the parent and the children and then specific expenses for the kids.
Okay.
Can we do a whole episode on that one too, I think?
That's perfect.
You're going to be here for a few weeks.
That's all right. No, there's nothing wrong with that. There's maintenance is quite a complex thing. And I think people, as educated as anybody may be, right, when it comes to maintenance, and I'm going to say this in a general term, right, it's not everybody, but men will use money in divorce and women will use children.
Yeah, correct.
That's why you see our maintenance courts are full of women fighting for money and our children courts are full of men fighting to see their kids.
Yeah, sure.
And that's how they weaponize one another, right?
Sad.
It's really terrible. Yeah, so maintenance is a big thing.
So just to summarize this episode, there's the 3 ways of getting married, right?
Sure. Yeah.
And if you don't have a contract, you don't go and see a lawyer like yourself. It's going to be community of property.
Correct.
But there is a law that does govern all those aspects and can help you or not help you.
Sure.
And then the other 2 are with accrual.
Yes, and out and out.
And then the other one without accrual.
Correct.
We don't see that too often without accrual.
No.
It's not unusual. There might be a specific reason for that.
Sure.
So most people say what I brought in my marriage is what I take out of my marriage.
Yeah.
And what the marriage grows by, we're going to split it.
The difference between the two, yes.
I think I'd like to talk about some in the later episodes, one of the dangers of what you sign. I think you got to be careful because it sounds all good that you're going to share everything at the end, but maybe it's not like that.
And a lot of exclusions, right? Because people exclude pension funds and so you have to be wary.
I think we'll talk about that as well.
Well, it's interesting, isn't it, really, that a marriage is effectively a legal contract.
It's a business.
Yeah. And would you go into business with somebody with all the touchy-feelies and not really take it too seriously?
No, exactly,
It's interesting that people do that, though.
They do, yeah.
Money has no emotions, right?
Yeah,
and so you can't have emotions about money. And that's why you have to be very calculated about how you enter into a divorce. Yeah. I mean, into a marriage, and kind of how you structure the process.
Awesome. Thanks, B. We will see you on the next one.
Thank you very much.
Next Monday. Thanks a lot. Thank you for listening. If you have enjoyed this podcast, would like to subscribe, please visit our website, www.growthfp.co.za. The information we have provided in this podcast is our personal opinion. For more detailed information, please discuss your financial situation with a financial planner.